Comic Book Savant, episode 365.
I know this. This I know. All that I have, all that is me, resides inside my poetry. And every time I write a rhyme, it might be the line that sets mine free. And also, I know that I don't...
Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This week, we're going to be doing a series spotlight. I'm going to be going over the Nathan Edmondson and Phil Noto run that started back in 2014 on Marvel for Black Widow. So we're going to be talking about the whole series, non-spoiler, to give you my thoughts on the run they did, as well as recommending the series for you. It's a 20-issue run, but before we get into all that, I'd like to give a shout-out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. You can find them over at comicspodcast.com. If you like this show, you want to find more comic book-related content, it's a great one-stop shop to find different comic book-related podcasts. You'll find some podcasts like my own that are a single-host podcast. They have roundtable discussions, dual host. It's a wide variety, and you can find a lot of different podcasts on a lot of different subjects. You have ones based on publishers, teams, individual characters, you name it. It's so much variety there, and it's constantly growing. More and more new podcasters are joining the Comics Podcast Network. So again, if you're a fan of comic books and you want to find more entertainment in that realm, take a moment and stop by the Comics Podcast Network. Again, the website is comicspodcast.com. And again, check it out. It's definitely, like I said, it's a good resource. I find myself going back, checking out some of the new shows that have been added. And again, it started out with, when the Comics Podcast Network started out years ago, it was maybe 20 of us. Now they're literally hundreds. One other podcast I'd like to give a shout out to is my friend Heath Holland. He's a part of the Comic Book Savant community, one of the original one of my original fans that I had a chance to actually meet in person. He's been podcasting off and on for as long as I have. He has Serial at Midnight. It's a great site. He has a website that he blogs on, as well as a YouTube channel that he's been doing for about a year now. So if you have a moment, go to serialatmidnight.com. I'll have already have links to his site. If you check out my friends or links on my website, you'll find it there, but I'll actually put it in the posting on my website for this actual episode to his website, as well as his YouTube channel. Check it out. He covers not just comics, but movies. He's a fan of vintage media across the board. So he talks about movies. He's comics, Epic collections. He's big into collecting the Marvel Epic collection, so he does a lot of stuff on that. Some music, and he does like unusual travel vlogs, like he goes to unexpected places. It's really, really good, well-rounded content. So definitely, there's a friend of the family. He's like a brother to me. So if you have a moment, check out serialatmidnight.com. and search for Serial at Midnight on YouTube. But again, I'll have the links included in this episode. Last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at InStockTrades.com. I've been partners with them for as long as I've been doing the show. This episode and every episode is sponsored by them. If you're unfamiliar with InStockTrades.com, it's one of the best places you can go online when it comes to getting collected editions, be it Absolute Editions, Omnibus, Marvel Masterworks, anything of that nature. If it's in a collected form, you can pretty much find it over at InStockTrades.com. They have discounts ranging from 35%, 42%, up to 50% off. They have on their homepage every week they update their deals of the week. It ranges in the variety of books that they have and the number of books you can find on special. But again, they update that weekly, and you can save 50% off. Now, if you're a U.S. customer and you place an order of $50 or more, you get free shipping in the U.S. That's only for U.S.-based customers. But if you do listen to this podcast and you stop by and you check out InStockTrades.com, you still get all the great savings. You just don't get the extra bonus of getting the free shipping. That's only included for U.S. customers, but they still have some of the lowest and most inexpensive international shipping rates around. So you still save a ton. So it is worth checking out, even if you're outside of the U.S. and checking out their site, because they have a ton of great deals. So with all that being said and all that out of the way, let's get into this Black Widow series. Again, this series started in 2014. Marvel Comics. It's written by Nathan Edmondson. You've heard me talk about him before. Not a few months back, I did a series spotlight on his Punisher run that he did. That he was actually doing at the same time he was writing this book. He was writing this. He's writing Black Widow, Punisher, and he did a Red Wolf series as well, which I have the first trade for that. I think that series was only 12 issues, where his run on Black Widow and Punisher were 20 issues apiece. He's a very strong writer. I've talked about him quite a few times. I've read a few of his works now, and he did some stuff over at Image as well. That's in the same kind of vein of espionage. He's really good. He has a really good take on like espionage, spy, the field of comics, that genre. And it's a genre that I think is not attended to as much as it should be, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the episode. The artist on this series was Phil Noto, which, Phil Noto is one of the best in the business. So they collaborated on this. The letterer is Clayton Cowles, one of the best in the business. And again, this is a 20 issue series. Like I said, they gave him 20 issues on this, as well as Punisher. I kind of wish, after finally reading it all the way through, that he could have had more time. But the one thing I did like about both of his runs that I've read on for Black Widow as well as the Punisher, they felt like complete stories. They felt like kind of like the Netflix series. It was one like long movie with multiple plot lines that I felt like were resolved during the course of the 20 issues, and I was satisfied with the conclusion of the storylines by the time I got through with the 20 issues, which is great, because we have so many long-going books and multiple storylines, and sometimes you feel like as a reader it's hard to jump into a series. Sometimes this you can get on and you can read this over a couple of days. If you're really dedicated, you can read this in one sitting. 20 issues is not a lot to get through, and it's an easy read. It's definitely, it keeps it flowing. It's upbeat. He's very good at writing. The best way I could describe Edmondson's writing, if you like the vibe and the whole vibe around this book, if you like Captain America, The Winter Soldier, that 70s espionage spy thriller, that's the vibe, especially that with this series with Black Widow that Edmondson took on the book. And it really worked for me. It has a good fit. I really feel like when I just did the episode talking about the information coming out about the Black Widow movie and potentially doing that. I feel like this coming off of which I felt like Captain America: Winter Soldier was Black Widow's strongest appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like this story could be used to adapt into a movie script, because it stays along the same vibe and the path that from the movies that the character is already on. So it lends itself well to be adapt for a motion picture, and I think it would really have a good fit. But again, Nathan Edmondson to me is one of the top writers when it comes to espionage spy thriller type stories. I mean, and when I think of his work that I've read so far, I only can base it on the things that I've read so far from him. He's up there with me with a Greg Rucka and Tom King when it comes to these kind of stories. The kind of niche, I feel like it's a niche that needs to come back. And yeah, I wouldn't mind, seeing a kind of Marvel, like a little corner of the Marvel universe that's like spy centric. Maybe with, Black Widow, maybe Winter Soldier, and some of those other characters, and like build that kind of up as a separate thing. Kind of like what, Marvel did with Marvel Knights back in the day, and even a few years ago when they did Big Shots, and it was Daredevil, Punisher. I can't remember what else was covered in Big Shots. It was a couple other titles, and they kind of were section off doing their own thing, for a while. And it didn't interact so much with the bigger scope of the Marvel Universe. They were their own thing, but some of the characters interconnected and intertwined. I wish they would do something like that, because I kind of miss this type of book, and it definitely filled a need and, itch for me. Edmondson and Noto have very good chemistry on this book. The visuals are stunning. If you've ever seen any of Phil Noto's work, he does all the artwork for all the issues throughout the 20-issue series, which is great, because now in this day and age we see, a big name artist comes on, he might do 1 or 2 issues and part of another one, and they have fill-in artists, and they'll take an issue or 2 off. He produces the artwork, all of the artwork, the inking, the coloring. He's the only artist on credit for all these issues. So my assumption is he did all the artwork from top to bottom, and it is top notch. And he plays with his style throughout the series with his inking techniques. Certain times it's kind of soft and a little bit more blown out, and then the other issues, depending on the tone of the story, it's a little bit sharper, harder lines. He plays around with a lot of different techniques. It's all still him, and you can tell that it's Phil Noto's artwork, but he plays around with it with colors, the way he inks the characters, that it could set a different tone and emotion based on how he switched around and did it. And it just seemed like they collaborated really well. But I noticed with Edmondson, he works well with all the different artists that I've seen him work with. He seems to be a very good collaborator. Mitch Gerard's, they did the Punisher run, and he also worked with Gerard's on his Image work. I can't remember the Image series. I reviewed I think an issue or 2 of that series. It's also like a spy kind of Mission Impossible kind of vibe series, and it's escaping me now, but I'm going to be reviewing it. I ended up going back getting some of the trades in that series just because I've loved the rest of his work that I found him over at Marvel. And Edmondson also did a really good run when DC 52 first started on Grifter, which is a Wildstorm character. I think he did the first 8 issues, and I really liked this take. And he got booted off the book, and he brought Rob Liefeld on since he, to write, if I remember correctly. I think it was Rob Liefeld, and they just ruined the book. I liked his take better. But that's some of the stuff that's where I originally found out about Nathan Edmondson was on during DC 52 on the Grifter series. Then I picked up the Image series, and then he came over to Marvel and started doing some work. And then I've just kind of followed him since then, picking up different things that I've seen his name on. And everything that I've read that he's done has been of quality, I definitely have to say. So, again, if you're not familiar with him as a writer, definitely check out some of his, works that I'm mentioning here, because, like I said, everything, like I said, but it's for an inquired segment. If you don't like the espionage spy kind of world, then it's not, it's not going to be for you. Right? And it might not appeal to you as much. But if you like spy thrillers and things of that nature, like if you like movies like Salt or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, those kind of things. Like I said, The Winter Soldier, even Captain America Civil War, like those kind of films. That's the kind of vibe that he's on. He does this espionage, which can be slightly over the top, but he always brings it back to a grounded kind of reality, which I love. Because it trims the outskirts of we are in this superhero universe. So he does a good job of balancing it extremely well. One thing I will have to say about this series, though, it's not for young readers. I think this is geared more towards adults. You know, this is Black Widow is, you know, is kind of she's a black ops, individual black ops team doing different things for, doing different jobs for S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of off the books. And also, she's taking odd jobs. And this also ties in to the theme of the movies, where it speaks very heavily throughout the series about her past and, you know, her having kind of read in her ledger and her trying to correct those wrongs and help people in her own way. And it plays very heavily into that theme. And it's a continuing theme throughout the whole 20 issues, and it kind of finishes up really talking about her past. The last 2 issues, it's a great story about her past coming out of the Red Room and some of the red that she speaks on her leisure and some of the things that she did in service of the room or the Red Room and being an agent for them. Being Black Widow that, you know, she wished she could take back, but it was the life she decided to live. It's, you know, it's very deep in fleshing out her wholly as a character and seeing different sides from her, but very adult, very mature. She's, you know, in this comic, at times, Black Widow is killing people. Like, it's no qualm. She's shooting them. She's killing people. She's an assassin, and I think that part of her, you know, is you know, missed at points, but she is an assassin. That's what she does, and she's extremely good, you know, at it. And you see that's brought on display, you know, in the forefront in this series. That I think that's that side they forget. Yes, she's a spy, but she's an assassin as well, a well trained. She's the Black Widow. You know what I'm saying? Not anyone else has that title but her, you know, and she's earned it. And you see some of the crazy, you know, extents and things that it goes throughout the story. One of the elements that I didn't like so much, again, it's a lot of subplots that go on that are shorter, handled in a couple of issues. Then it's the bigger ongoing story that goes through most of the 20 issues. They resolve it around issue 18, but it's with the big bad, it kind of takes a twist that's kind of sci-fi, a little supernatural. I mean, it makes sense in a way that this is kind of the Marvel universe and it's superheroes and it's those kind of things around there. I don't necessarily know if it should have been in a Black Widow book. I feel like they could have just kept it a little bit boots to the ground, and I kind of felt like, it nudged a little bit. It kind of broke it broke the immersion that I had in the story that I was telling, because it felt like this could really happen. And then I was like, now I'm reading a comic book. You know, it kind of hit you in that kind of way. And I felt like it didn't need to do it. It didn't have to do it, but it did. You know, I don't know why that was included in there, but, you know, it doesn't ruin the story at all. It just went in a slightly different direction than what I expected a threat for Black Widow to be facing. But we are kind of in the, you know, the Marvel universe, so those elements are kind of real in that world, but it felt really, I mean, it felt so real. Like, even in an issue, they have, you know, on the cover, it's Anderson Cooper, and they're doing an expose on Black Widow. So, like, that's how, like, it kind of deals with the real world side of, you know, her actions and things of that nature, playing up, you know, themes kind of picked up in Captain America Civil War, kind of put on, on the forefront here within the comic, like really kind of grounding it in a certain reality. So that part broke it a little bit. So again, outside of that, I really feel like, I have to rate this honestly. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I don't necessarily think it's going to be for everyone. Like I said, you have to be a fan of like those 70s spy thriller type movies, that kind of vibe, or like those certain movies that I mentioned, or television shows like Alias, things of that nature. Those kind of shows that vibe. If you like those things, then you'll really enjoy this series. If not, it's still a solid read. But again, it might not be for everyone, just if you don't like that, and I always have to preface that in any review or spotlight that I do, that not everything is meant for everybody. So I like to give you some examples on, if you like this, you'll enjoy reading that. If you don't, or if it's not really your cup of tea, it's worth still reading, but it's not something I would highly recommend for you to read, because you might not, if it's not your cup of tea, it's just not your cup of tea. But again, if you like those things that I mentioned, this is definitely a great fit for you guys, and I think you will rather enjoy it. I can't recommend it highly enough. Again, I give it an 8 out of 10, which I classify as a good read. Like I said, you can sit down and read this over a weekend. I wish they would collect this like in an omnibus type thing that has all 20 issues in it. It's collected in 3 trades, which is still not bad. You can go to In-Stock Trades and you can probably get all 3 trades with discount for probably like under $20, or you can get the issues digitally on Comixology. It's a lot of different places you can pick up the 20 issues. It's not a big investment, and I think it's definitely worth the money you would put down if you like the material and the series, for sure. I wish they would do just, even if it's not a hardcover, but if they would at least do just Black Widow by, how they do those by Edmondson and Noto, and just collect it in one fell swoop, so you can get all the issues, not trying to track down 3 different trades. But again, a good solid series. I do apologize for this episode coming out a little bit later in the week. Like I told you guys, I've been sick, and I'm going to tell you guys a story. I meant to tell it at the beginning of the episode, but if you made it this far, I might as well tell it now since I'm remembering it. So I told you guys, I've been sick. I've been dealing with, some physical issues and complications. So I go Monday, I'm going, leaving. My wife's taking me to the doctor, and I'm walking outside, and I trip and fall. So I was already hurting. I'm having some problems with my legs and my feet, and I fall, and what do? I hurt my legs and my feet when I fall. So I'm going to the doctor to get a follow-up appointment. Now I got to go for extra stuff because I was walking, and it was a root coming up out the ground, a tree root that I couldn't see, and literally I'm just walking, boom, like I'm hit by lightning. Boom, I fall down. And I'm 6 foot, 300 plus pounds dude. You know what I'm saying? When I fall, it's a situation. It's an event. And, so I've been kind of recuperating from that on top of everything else. So I got out, I put out the YouTube video earlier in the week, which is a review of the Lego Batman movie. I finally had a chance to watch that on cable. I was watching it on HBO this past weekend, so I finally reviewed that because I never went to the theaters to see it, and I finally got around to that. So that's up on the YouTube channel. So it's youtube.com/comic book savant. Just to let you guys know, I'm working on my social media thing. I'm always working on it. I'm trying to do better about it. Instagram, YouTube, on Twitter as well. I'm still trying to figure Twitter. I don't know why. I understand Instagram better than I understand Twitter. Also, guys, stop by the website. I put a lot of time and effort in kind of creating it like it's a one-stop shop. Mostly anything that I talk about other things that I recommend. I try to put all that on the website as a one-stop resource for you guys. Also, I appreciate everybody stopping by the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. You guys, I get tons of likes and views whenever I put out episodes. You guys, some of you guys will hit me up and message me through the page and, let me know that you're listening to the show and you enjoy it. And I appreciate when I hear from every single one of you guys. Do that more, feel free. And I started up, I have the links on the website. If you go to the website, I have a link to the Facebook group. I got to see if I can make a custom URL for it so I can then start listing that. But check out those other things that are attached to the show. Again, I want this to be an interactive experience as much as possible. So I try to put out a lot of different ways for you guys to reach me and contact me if you want to. Again, if you're on Facebook, you can hit up the Facebook page and post. And I'm going to try to interact and do more posts there as well, not just via the website, not just via one social media platform. Again, but I've been working behind the scenes on a lot of stuff. And like I told you guys, I'm going to be doing the top 50 my top 50 comic book movies. I've been working on that too. That's going to be rolling out probably sometime in February. I'm getting the last things in order on how I'm going to actually do that. And I'm looking at, I think I'm going to split between, I'm going to be doing the countdown, and it's going to be via the podcast here as well as the YouTube. I'm going to kind of alternate the countdown, and so I'll count down so many here, then it'll be episode there as well. So if you guys haven't already, if you listen to the podcast, I implore you to check out the YouTube channel. I'm trying to do big things there. I'm trying to, grow that subscriber base. So again, if you like what I do here, definitely take a moment and stop by, YouTube and check out the channel. It's quite a few videos there now. It's over like 20 videos. I haven't counted exactly. And then I upload episodes of the podcast there as well. So, if you're working on something, you can have at home on your desktop or even on your laptop, you can have a tab open and have that playing while you're doing other stuff. So I kind of do that to have a, extra layer for the show. But if not, definitely go to iTunes, subscribe to the podcast. Excuse me. If you haven't already, take a moment and to do a review on iTunes. I would really appreciate it. It helps the show gain exposure. So if you haven't done it, if you could just take a minute or two and review the show for iTunes. And, be honest, I don't want you to do any fluff pieces. I just want to go write a review on what you think. Just drop a few lines, give it a rating. That helps it get seen. If you want to help support the show, I have a Patreon campaign that's been going on. It's patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. Definitely stop by there, check it out. I have some minimal goals set up there. I have to grow it out, but I really don't have any Patreon. Well, I only have like one Patreon supporter at this point. But again, it's things that I'm looking to do with upgrading the show, the equipment, doing more things. So if you can help support as little as $1, a month, that you can add to the Patreon campaign would go a long way in doing that kind of stuff. Excuse me. But it's not about that. If you can, that's awesome. If not, it's other things you can do. Again, sending feedback via social media, sharing out the links, subscribing to the YouTube channel. All those things help, and I appreciate everyone being a part of the community, however you contribute. This is a community here. I want to grow that. I want to interact with you guys more. So that's one of the things I'm pushing and striving to do this year, is becoming more interactive. I think sometimes as a content creator, we get closed off in our world because we're so focused on creating content for you guys to enjoy, that in the process we're kind of sectioned off and don't interact enough. So I'm trying to balance that better And like I said, so that's where I'm trying to be a stronger presence via social media, via YouTube. I know some of you guys are YouTubers that listen, or podcasters, and I want to try to spotlight you guys. So, definitely message me too if you listen to the show and, you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber. So I can check out your content, and, then I can give you a shout out on the show as well, because we can help each other grow each other's communities as well. So, if we are not in competition, if we both talk about the same subject matter, because everyone's, opinions are different. And that's what the community around Comic Book Savant started out as. It was just a group of friends that all love comics, and a lot of the original people of what we used to call the cult of Anubis, because on the Comic Geek Speak forums, my username was Anubis. So that was a little play that the listeners of the show came up with. Like, they all spun off and start doing podcasts. Maybe they started listening to me, they start talking to one another via the chat board system that Comic Geek Speak had at the time, and they became friends. People paired off and did podcasts together. We all self-promoted, we all cross-promoted one another, and we all grew, and we all got better from it. So, again, so if you're a content creator and you happen to listen to this as well, don't hesitate to drop me a line so I can give you a shout out on the show and share a link to your content. Because, again, that's what we're here for. It's all about community and growing together. So that's one of my main goals for 2018, is to get back to what I started many years ago when all this began. So that's all I have for you guys this week. Again, if you're not familiar with Nathan Edmondson, definitely check out some of his work. He's a really good writer. It's sad that he only has these few 20 issue and 12 issue runs with Marvel. I wish at some point he gets something more substantial that he can do a bigger or longer run on, but time will tell. But I think he's definitely one of the up and coming writers in comics right about now. But again, that's all I have for you guys for this week. I'll see you again next week with another episode of Comic Book Savant. You guys take care and have a good rest of the week. Bye.
And into lyrical wholeness. And I know this, and I know this. This I know, this I know.